Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of World of Tanks. We are on Ruinberg. I've done it again. I did not have to look at it. We are definitely on Ruinberg, spawned into the south, with Bitwise from Clan Pansy. And he comes, hey, diddle diddle, right up the middle. I have seen people do this, and he's going to pay for it with a lot of his hit points. It's one shot in there, and he takes this position, which they added a while back, supposedly in a way to balance this map, because the northern spawn has such a better position for shooting down the road. Instead of changing the road angle, they added this spot, which is questionable at best. I don't know if you auto-aim there. I would have done it. And when I was watching this the first time, I said, well, let's see how this works out. Maybe he wins the game from this position. But this is an interesting game. It ends up being very close. Let's see how it works. He gives up more hit points right there. And this is why I don't like this spot very much. It really is exposed. There's 3 artillery on the enemy side. They can drop shells in here. He's at 168 hit points. Frankly, I'm surprised they didn't just splash him to death in here. The good news, though, for our hero Bitwise, is the enemy team is actually pulled back, and they are not challenging the little village. They are not challenging the little village, and that is going to be greatly to Bitwise's team's advantage. It's also to his advantage to survive, and the good news is he spots one of their artillery. I don't know if he spotted him or someone else did, but it doesn't matter because goodbye M53, 55, and that was a big advantage for his team. Drops one in there. Looks like he gets damage out of it, 214. It shows it. Even as it didn't show it on the screen, it showed it on the bottom down there. There must be a timing thing with it disappearing and the shot flight and registering it. I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if I've ever really noticed that before. But his team has then taken the road, and there's nobody up there keeping them honest as they peek through those bushes. Type 61's buggered off. The Leopard ran away. The 54E1 is way up in the corner. And as far as we know, anyway, there's nobody else up there. And so Bitwise will change what he's doing, which I agree with, and he's going to head over this way. So right off the bat, he's got 1,200 damage. He did prove to them that there's nobody there. However, he's given up nearly every hit point he had to do it. So in the long run, I don't think that move was really worth it there, Bitwise. And it's going to limit your options later on. And we are going to see Bitwise play he's going to be crafty. He's going to try to be crafty. He's going to, obviously he's in a scout in a high tier game, so he doesn't want to get out in the open and killed, but I think he's going to end up being a little more tentative potentially than he wanted to be because he's lost so many hit points. And that is the big problem with early hit point loss. All of a sudden now you are out of a lot of options you would otherwise have if you had hit points. I would go for the track on this guy. Ends up actually bouncing. You shoot pretty zoomed out as well. I think that particular shot deserved a much further zoom in just to QC the shot or to improve the shot. But we've won the field, and they are pushing hard and starting to win in the city. And this is one of the ways this map goes. The question then becomes, how do the field guys react? And usually you've won the field because you've sent more mediums, and they've won the city because their heavies are down there and you had fewer, or maybe they had heavies and mediums down there. But the trick now is digging out all the heavies that they've got and big TDs. So now we're just in a bit of a shooting gallery. And I like this. You're a bit standoff. You've gone to your heat. We're going to start working these guys over. And now we're going to talk a little bit about pushing advantages, because you really have these guys out in an open area. Your team's working on them pretty good, but the problem is they don't do a great job, and they end up losing a lot of tanks doing it. One of the big reasons is this big guy is way down there anchoring their defense. So we're going to shoot this guy for a while, and this JT needs to go. So you're going to, I think you shift over to the T10. That's fine. That's damage that you have available. One thing I do appreciate, we'll get back to the JT in a minute. One thing I do appreciate about Bitwise is he's using the 90mm on the T49. I actually prefer that. The T49 is a fun tank with the big derp gun. Got it. There are people who do very well with it, but for my money as an overall scout, the 90mm is really good on the T49. It makes it a great all-round scout. And now we're going to bail out of a place that we have numbers and we are winning, and you don't really need to go to the cap, and you're not going to do much over here because of these big guys. And the reason I'm mentioning this is a lot of players, as they're getting better at the game, will hear the mantra of the scout's strength is its mobility, and they'll hear the mantra of you need to react and flex and reposition and do all the words that mean move around the battlefield. But oftentimes in a fast tank and a scout, what that turns out to be for a lot of intermediate to improving players is sort of random wanderings. It's kind of like going on a walkabout. You're just wandering around. Now the good news is we find this Type 4. Again with the zoom, I would zoom in much more. You've got a pretty decent 10 heat, and that thing does have some weak spots in the front. And while it is a long shot, you're just sort of center amassing it, and then we get a good shot into probably the flat plate of the turret. We avoid the mantlet on that one, and we put that guy down. And it may have even gone low down into his weak spot, but we do get him. Back to the wanderings thing, though, and what you had going on in the north was a pretty good advantage, and all of a sudden now it's turning into a disadvantage, and your JT and Udez are there trying to cap. And now we flex back over here, messing around a bit, and we've gone from a pretty good advantage to a bit of a disadvantage. And this is kind of how this map goes oftentimes when you win in the field and you're trying to peel the guys out of the city, and the guys in the city don't just drive out and get whacked. And unfortunately the JT is now hurting. So what I would have done is I would have stayed there. I would have actually moved into these buildings. There's some bushes and some cover, and you may have had some more shots to help these guys whittle these dudes down, potentially track the 110E3, maybe even kill the T10, shoot the Type, whatever you had going on. But you did a decent job going around and dealing with that Type 5. Was it a Type 5? Whatever it was. Yeah, the Type 4, sorry. But you sort of let the advantage wither away over there, and your gun and your vision, actually, your gun and your vision would have been a force multiplier, because you can do things like track guys. If you have the shot on the T10, your heat has no problem going through it. So just I think your better plan there was to help your guys push that advantage. Now if your cab had been threatened, it would have been fine to flex back over there. But again, we're going back to the kind of random wanderings. I was going to say random wanderings. Random wanderings of the intermediate to improving player trying to figure out, hey, how do I use the mobility and flexibility of this fantastic, fast, light tank to win the game? And it turns out sometimes just to be wandering around the map. Needs to have a purpose. To which I'm sort of asking, all right, well, what's the purpose here? We're looking for the Leopard. All right, fair enough. Maybe he's going to come around. You do want to avoid having guys come up behind your artillery. We'll come back to that later. Foreshadowing. Your artillery at least was smart enough to get up here. I do like that. You have two of them still alive. Good on them. And one of them is a GW, for goodness sake. I mean, look, if you're playing Artie and you tell me that, hey, I can't reposition because I'm slow, look where that GW100 went. He's certainly repositioned. And now we're coming on here. All right, so this was a mistake. Once that 110E3 was seen, and you can tell that he's actually around the corner, you should have gone straight to this bush and started wailing on him. And there you go. So he died. Good. It didn't matter. That's a good thing. Although you did lose your JT. I don't think you'd have been able to stop the JT dying, though, even had you gone straight to the bush. But that's one of those reaction things. Instead of oh, I'm going to use my mobility and I'm going to flank around on the 103, you've got to get in there and start helping that guy right there. Ouch. That's a building. That's just learning how to drive a scout. You need to zoom out a little bit more. There you go. Keep the turret pointed in the direction you think the shots are going to come from. Zoom out a little bit more so you can avoid. Try not to knock down trees, because if someone's watching, they'll know that that tree just went down right there. And I like this. I'd come around here, and again, I'd get down into those buildings, and I'd start looking down that corridor. Because these are near deads, especially the Type, I believe, is fairly low hit points. So we're going to move in a little bit. Cut right as soon as possible to cover up behind the building so you don't take a shot. And then I'd have been careful right there coming around that corner also, maybe just a peek, because he could have already been in those bushes there. Alright, not bad, not bad. We come in here. Now there is an option to put cap pressure on them. You do have two artillery. Look at the artillery repositioning. That was good on them. We're going to make a bit of another critical error right here. Take a peek. There's really nobody there. The T10. Cross over. Not bad. And head back this way. Because I would be a little bit nervous myself. It's been a while since the 705s have been seen. He was way down in the south. He could easily be coming up around the open field up here. Or maybe up at the top over on the east side coming through the bushes. So you take a look. I think that was an okay look. I think I would have gone a little further though, just to sort of look up there and see if he's up there. Because what you did not spot, and I think the critical spot, and we're going to find out it was, you did not spot this area. So if he managed to get up into these bushes and he's droning through here, then you've got trouble. And that was a point where it wasn't a random wandering, right? You had the right idea, you just didn't look in enough places, I think. And now we're going to put on cap pressure. Take a little look. It's not bad. And this is a pretty big error right here. T10's coming, and boom. I would have actually been zoomed back, but you didn't even need to be. It looks like you had a shot on that guy right there. You take him down, and this is pretty much over. But instead of doing that, we just hide. Oh, man. Absolutely had that Type 61. You may have not have noticed it. That happens. Oh, he didn't spot you. That's a good thing. And then the T10 gets on cap. People are clicking on the middle. People are clicking up there. The GW knows what's up. He's like, hey, bruh. And then all of a sudden, boom, there he is. And down goes the 1 artillery. And a bounce that does not help. All right, so. Probably a good decision to go this way, I guess. I don't know if I would have. I may have actually gone this way and pushed into the 61 and tried to take him down with the T10. But let's see how this works out. We're going to kind of take a long roundabout route, and unfortunately the 705 gets both artillery, and that is a big bad bummer. That was the big advantage. Artillery gets more powerful as the game goes on, but they both got nuked by 1705. And the T10 is just sitting on cap. I think he's actually in a little, I believe there's a little nook you can get in right there, so he's hiding in that thing. We decide to come up around behind him. There he is. Slam on the brakes. There we go. Back up. Get that shot. Missed. That's unfortunate. He's going around. One more shot. There we go. We got a piece of him. He's tracked. This should be it. Get him, T10. One more down. He's got 12 hit points. T10. Oh, and he covers up behind the building. We missed that one. And now the T10 is in trouble. Push forward. Push, push, push. You got to go help the T10. But unfortunately, he's behind the buildings there, and he ends up dying. And that is definitely a bummer right there. Good news is, though, is before he dies, he takes down the Type 61, and then he dies to the 705. And now we're coming in. All right. So we've talked a lot about the various things that cost you, and now the hit points are going to come back to haunt us. We just don't have the hit points to duel this guy. We also are out of gold, which is a bummer. We're going to need a side to back shot to have any kind of realistic chance of penning the object 705. He knows where you're coming from because he got hit from you over there several times. He knows where you're coming from because he got hit by you, and we're kind of blazing in. We got 3 minutes. Now, I don't know if you thought maybe you were going to trick him and jump him from behind, so to speak, but if you noticed the way his icon was moving, I could tell he was actually turning around the way his icon was moving. I could tell he was actually turning around because you're going to come face to face, and that's what I would have done if I was him, and you just end up driving right in front of him. And I'd have not done that. You need to be a little more cagey. Hang out in the bush for a bit. See if you couldn't come up north up here and maybe get a spot on him moving around from these bushes. Maybe he breaks out into the open. If he doesn't, then just keep working this edge around here. Try to find him. Just try to find him. Another option would be to disengage, come all the way around through the town, and see if you can catch him out messing around here. That puts you out in the open a little bit more. And if he does come at you, sometimes in these corridors it's hard to get away, even with the speed of the scout. But I think nearly any option other than raging in at him was probably the best one. But good game, man. 2,800 damage. You ended up with a kill. Very close to pulling it off. I think one of the most critical errors, two of them, the two big ones were giving up all those hit points early on just to take what I find to be a very questionable position. And number two, not checking that eastern approach with your scout when the 705 hadn't been seen for a while. You had the right idea, you just didn't look carefully enough up there, in my opinion. And of course, the end game stuff is always important. Obviously, you'd rather have a lot more options with hit points here, but you didn't, and the problem is you just blazed at him. And I think you could have been a little cagier in 3 minutes. All right, man. Thanks for bringing this, or thanks for sending in this replay. It was I think this is a great learning replay for kind of tight quarters and scouts and carrying games with scouts, man. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you.